Who is stronger, Wolverine or Doctor Strange? Which hero or expansion should people get next? And storage and separation of cards. These questions and more are what we're going to answer in this week's Reddit reply. So let's jump on over to Reddit. The first one is a big one. Who is stronger, Doctor Strange or Wolverine? Title says it all. Of course, if you think there's someone else that is stronger than these two, fine too. Give them a shout out. Obviously, Valk is the strongest, and that's undeniable. But we won't get into that. And a lot of people go in here and they say Doctor Strange. Here's the thing. Obviously, Doctor Strange is very, very strong. I am starting to really lean the way of Wolverine. And that's what I wrote in this one too. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, D20, you really hate Doctor Strange and you've always thought he's not that good and you think Spider-Ham is better. That is true. That is true. But here's the thing with Wolverine that I was thinking more about it. As we get more villains that have stalwart, right? As we get more villains that have tough, these are things that Doctor Strange has to work around that isn't as easy. Now, Invocation deck, still incredibly strong, right? His ability to get a bunch of tough stats out there and set up a lot of basically allies to block for him and put tough status on them. Really, really strong, right? Change status cards, really strong. But he still doesn't really have a way to get around stalwart, and he doesn't have really a way to get around tough, right? He's still got to ping off damage and do different things with that, which you can work around, right? You can obviously work around. The Invocation deck, again, can run through things really, really fast. His deck itself isn't that bad. The thing with Wolverine that I think makes him the most interesting is that right out of the gate, he can do massive amounts of damage, right? With his claws and the fact that he can exhaust his claws. So now he gets piercing and then he can get overkill and he can reduce the cost of everything to play by taking some damage. Like, that's all really strong. If you team that up with his ability to do a 2/2/2 stat line damage, his ability to heal 2 damage every single round, and then when needed, flip to Alter Ego and heal like massive amounts of damage, there's a lot going for Wolverine. I still think Wolverine in protection is the best Wolverine because there are more cards there to help heal him up, which you're going to want to do because his life is basically a resource. Now, I know a lot of people are going to argue the difference and say, no, Doctor Strange, obviously, because that's what everyone says right now. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on who you think is stronger right now, Doctor Strange versus Wolverine. And for solo, I will say that if you're talking about, again, a more generic villain that is like a claw or something, Strange is probably stronger, like someone that you can take time to build out for, because I do think Strange builds out really well, or can build out really well. But Wolverine, can build out well too. So I don't know. This is, I think, a fun question to ask right now. And let me know your thoughts about it. All right, this Redditor post, first time trying Guardians Most Wanted Scenario 3 to 5. They talk about the other two. So they did escape from the museum. The first attempt, we tried spoiler free with the decks, used to be infiltrate from the museum, and it was a pretty bad time. They lost pretty quickly. Next time they lost, since we lost the first time because of bad luck, we tried again in the same deck and won without much problem. Rocky managed to flip the collector in a row. I think it's a great scenario. I still don't like that scenario. Like, if you're a Justice heavy deck in there, it's relatively easy to get through that scenario. They didn't mention here, but I'm pretty sure they're doing the campaigns. That's also important to note. Nebula, again, spoiler free. They like the idea of the scenario, but it's very hard to keep track of all the special rules. We lost because we thought the invasion counters were going to rise slowly and got surprised when the encounter cards added more invasion counters, which is kind of like nuts on it. So they end up winning the second attempt, which does kind of make sense with Nebula, because here's the thing. In my opinion, Nebula can be the easiest boss in the game or harder than Ronin, right? Because once Nebula starts building out with a bunch of those technique cards, and I think it's the second stage, on second stage and third stage, not all of them get removed, right? You resolve all of them, but not all of them get removed. Only one. Yeah, I think it's only one gets removed. Like, it's cascadeness of bad, right? Constantly. It's terrible. And like I said, the counters really kind of keep throwing you off because you think it's going to go up by a certain amount, and then, oh no, I need to now prioritize that. And it's really expensive to get those counters off. It's like really tough to get them off. So they did win in the second turn, and they enjoyed it overall. There's not much of the rules in the scenario, but I understand why most people hate it. If you play solo, you have to use 2 resources every turn for the evasion. That's nonsense. It is pretty tough. It wasn't scaled very well, which kind of stinks. But to me, this is like a perfect example of Nebula, is that you can get absolutely decimated one game and then play again and then destroy her. Like, it's so unbalanced. It's really, really unbalanced. So, all right. And then they get to Ronin, which is always funny. So Ronin destroyed. Not funny. Hard to figure out a way to win. We changed their second attempt. They changed their aspects, removed the optional side schemes, and decided that the main advances with 1 per player instead of 2 per player. We survived longer, but was not funny. We had too many minions with too much HP. Third attempt, we also removed the setup rules. Pincer maneuver in play. You stand accused to the player with the Power Stone, universal weapon in play. At the end of the first round, thanks to his Surge Fest, he had the Power Stone, the universal weapon, fanaticism, and side schemes that adds a boost icon. I don't mean to laugh at this person, but this is just such typical Ronin play. Giving up for now. I guess 4 players who got all the cards from the market and get to play all aspects will have a chance to beat him, but I hardly see how you can manage the threats, minions, and surprise attacks. It is tough, right? It's really tough to beat Ronin, but it is possible. I am now in the camp firmly that Venom Goblin is actually harder than Ronin, because the strategy is to beat Ronin on a rush, right? Rush strategy is, in my opinion, the best strategy to beat Ronin. I don't know a way you can long play him and win. Because as I've said this on stream before, that he's a villain that starts at like an 11 difficulty, which isn't bad, but he would have to drop down to a 7 as you play. Instead, he goes from 11 to a 15, right? On a 10 scale, right? It's just, it's too much. It's way too much. Versus Venom Goblin, I feel like starts at like an 8 and works his way up to like a 13, 14, right? He gets tough as it goes along, but it's fair because it's kind of like, all right, you have to make sure you build out and do things right. But Venom gets really, really, really tough in the long run. So anyway, that's my kind of opinion about that. Some people had some funny comments on it. Just dealing with it and how they dealt with him and all that fun stuff. So anyway, fun times. Let me know your thoughts about what I've said about all this. If you agree about Escape and Nebula, and I'm sure most people agree about Ronin, but I guess, do you think Venom Goblin is harder than Ronin, or do you think I'm wrong about that? Which hero or expansion should I get next? I currently own Core, Rise of Red Skull, Green Goblin, Wolverine, Wasp, Captain America, Doctor Strange. I play true solo and two-handed. I prefer true solo, so any heroes that come with beneficial aspect cards that will benefit the style of play is ideal. I have a video series going on that I need to continue. I'll put it in the top up there, I guess, the top left or top right of the screen. So you can see that I kind of go through every single hero pack and talk about all the aspect cards of each one. So you can definitely check that out. But what I would say is, if you're looking for aspect specific cards, you're going to have to go through all the cards and see what you like. As far as what to get, I'm kind of just in the camp of just going release order, and except for Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Just kind of skip that for now and then come back to that at the end. So finish up Rise of Red Skull, get the Mad Titan Shadow set, get the, what's after that, Spider-Man set or whatever, then X-Men, right? I feel like that's the best way to go nowadays. And then Guardians at the very end. You could do X-Men cycle as well pretty early on, because I feel like that's a pretty balanced cycle so far. And they're doing the trilogy now, so you can like pay attention to it while it's being released. That could be super helpful. But yeah, it's weird because, again, it seems like, if you're trying to collect all of it, just go with whatever's on sale, honestly. But try to go in order. I think it just makes the most sense, because a lot of people in one cycle. Oh, people are commenting right now. People in one cycle, right, or one cycle of heroes, like there's a lot of cards in that cycle that helps other heroes, right? So in the Guardian cycle, a lot of those cards help those heroes. And in the X-Men cycle, right, there's a lot of X-Men cards within that cycle that help different heroes. So I almost feel like you want to stay in that cycle, generally speaking. Now, some of the more interesting deck building pulls from a bunch of different cycles, but anyway, that's my rough idea with that. All right, storage and separation of cards. I have a collection of Marvel Champions and start wondering how I should keep hero decks. Keep original decks or keep hero cards only. Rest landed. Oh, put the rest in like aspect or basic card sections. What do you prefer? So I know a lot of people play like the what are the starter decks or whatever, the precons, right? They play the precons over and over and over. I'm kind of curious of this community. Do you play the precons a lot? Like, I will literally play it once on stream and then I get rid of it, because I can't stand the precon deck, generally speaking. I don't think many of them are very good. And sometimes like the aspect they pick for the hero, I don't think is a really good aspect either. So anyway, let me know what you do with that. Do you separate them all? Do you put them like together in storage? And then if you do want a deck build, do you have to like mix and match and get rid of it? Like kind of what's your strategy with that? For me, like I said, for me, I open up the pack, I sleeve them, well, then I play it on stream. But then I play it on stream where I play through the precon deck, and then I immediately see, okay, usually staying in that aspect for at least the time being, how would I improve it? How would I make things better? Move that around a little bit, and then eventually try with a different aspect completely, because I like messing around with aspects like that. But yeah, let me know how you do things, because I'm kind of interested, because again, I see a lot on Reddit and Facebook that people will just like play the precons like religiously and very like tinker with them like very little bit, like very small amounts. All right, this person needs some buying help. I'm looking to get more X-Men heroes before summer starts. I have Colossus, Kitty, Cyclops, Wolverine, and Storm, which are almost all of them are pretty good except for Cyclops. Any suggestions on who to pick between Phoenix, Gambit, and Rogue? I usually play solo and two-handed solo, and most interested in unique playstyles over anything else. I'm happy to give more context as needed. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Gambit, out of those three, like I like Phoenix probably the most out of those three right now, because I really like the direction that they're doing with Phoenix. But Phoenix is very straightforward in my mind, and I know, and scrolling down in the comments, a lot of people say Rogue is super unique, but you lose some of the experience and whatever. Gambit for solo, Rogue is pretty fun. I'm still loving Rogue solo. Like, I know a lot of people like Rogue. I still am not there. Gambit. Okay, some Gambit love, but you will not see any Phoenix love, which is really, really kind of sad. And I kind of get it, because if they're saying that they look forward to like unique playstyles, Phoenix's playstyle isn't that unique. I still don't think people are, I don't want to say playing her wrong, because they're not playing her wrong, but they're just playing her with the idea of like you're supposed to flip back and forth, and I don't think that's the case. Like again, I think you're supposed to build out and then go unleashed when you're ready to just like attack like crazy. I think she's really good at that, especially for solo. But it isn't unique, right? It's not really a unique style. The most unique thing about her is the her Nemesis deck, right? It's the most unique thing. So anyway, out of those three, probably Gambit, then probably Phoenix, and then I guess Rogue. I'm just not a big fan of Rogue, but I do like the cards that come in her pack. So I do think she is necessary for like all the X-Men stuff out there. But what would you recommend? Phoenix, Gambit, Rogue? Let me know in the comments. All right, this is everyone's favorite topic to talk about: new expansions and heroes. After the X-Men wave is done, what future releases are people excited for? Following the trend so far, they add in one-off expansion before the next theme. With that being said, I'm hoping the next expansion is the Fantastic Four. Now, the only problem with this is that like that's happened once. Like it's not really a pattern, right? Because we had the first three, we had a one-off, and now we're getting another three. And the reason I did the one-off, according to Caleb Grace in the live streams, was they wanted to keep people on their toes. So the idea that they're just going to keep following this pattern, like it's barely a pattern at this point, right? Like, because the next one could be easily 2 in a row, or another 3 in a row, or a 5 in the row. Okay, probably not 5 in the row, but it could be anything they want in a row. So this idea that they're going to do like a 3-1, 3-1, 3-1, 3-1 for the foreseeable future, I don't see it. I highly doubt it. I really highly doubt it. But yeah, so they're pretty hyped for Fantastic Four, as are some other people. You know, Secret Wars multiverse thing could be interesting. And again, a lot of people are kind of going with the idea that it would be another trilogy after like a one-off, maybe. Street level defenders with Daredevil, I've seen a lot of, and I could see that being a cycle or two. That would make a lot of sense to me. And they talk about different things: Venom, the crew, or I'm sorry, the crew, defenders, all that fun stuff. Pair them with Inhumans, I guess you could do too. Let me know what you think is gonna be next. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm so all over the place on this. I think Daredevil makes the most logical sense next, but that doesn't mean they're going to do it, obviously. I think it'd be fun if they did Daredevil, because that's just like the one thing people really want. And like, I feel bad for people that have been on Team Daredevil since the very beginning and they're just like gotten nothing. I think that kind of stinks. But yeah, I don't know. I think Daredevil makes a lot of sense. And I think, honestly, more Spider-Man stuff makes a lot of sense. That stuff generally probably still sells pretty well. And then Fantastic Four makes a lot of sense. But Fantastic Four, I think, is going to be a little weird of how they're going to do it, because there's like really like one cycle, maybe 2 of worth of content from that. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below. All right, now the very last topic. Ronin is fun. So a long time ago, my cousin broke my nose while we were sparring. That was still a more fun evening than my last few attempts on Ronin campaign. I know we already talked about Ronin once, but yeah, I like to just enjoy this misery with other people. Ronin is fun, effing undeniably not fun. And it's true. So just remember that they have ruled that for the campaign, you don't have to use all the symbols on the side scheme that comes into play. That's important to note. But yeah, it is really rough. Though a lot of people have talked about how, how bad Ronin is in game design and whatever. And that there's some truth to that. There is some truth that as far as design, it's not great. I forgot who it was. I think it was Boggs brought it up. I think, and I don't want to misquote the person. So it might not have been Boggs, but they brought up how at the time they didn't really know what to do for this cycle, so they just kept putting the surge keyword on everything. And they admitted that in hindsight we went a little overboard because surging into surges gets a little rough, which goes back to the whole thing of like, I hope they're listening to their playtesters, and I hope playtesters are catching this stuff, because I've talked to a few and they say they catch some of this stuff and it's just kind of ignored. And I've talked to others that like they never caught this. Whatever. I don't know what goes on over there half the time. But they're obviously getting better. I think the one thing that is good about Ronin, I will say that is good about Ronin, is that Ronin is a villain that we can still go back to today and struggle against. And he's manageable now, right? Like I can beat Ronin with Wolverine fairly quickly, right? Maybe not consistently, but I can beat him, right? If 5-6 games in a row, I can probably beat him because I'm going to just do a 3-turn rush strategy on him. I like that is now more consistent and more doable than it was back in the day. So that is the one good thing about Ronin, is that I guess he's somewhat I wouldn't say future-proofed, but because things are so difficult with him, it makes things more interesting moving forward. And, there's now a bar that's set that if we have a villain that's quote unquote unfair like Ronin is, the designers know not where to go past on things, right? They learned a lesson from it, and that's good. I think that's an overall good thing, and I'm happy for that. So anyway, Ronin is fun. He's terrible, but I think one, they've learned the lesson, and two, I like that I can go back to him now. And yes, he's a very, very hard challenge, but he feels like, for the most part, a more doable challenge. Hopefully you enjoyed this week's Reddit reply. This is always really fun to do. Really quick, if you want to see last week's, or I guess it was 2 weeks ago, if you want to see that Reddit reply, it's right here. We talk about, does War Machine have a card error on it, and some other topics. And if you made it this far in the video, do me a huge favor, hit the like button, subscribe, leave some comments. I really appreciate it. See you all next time.